This is Aisle 42. Welcome back to Aisle 42. In this episode, I chat with Neil Thomson, co-founder of Laid Back Snacks, a brand that's redefining what it means to snack smarter. I've been a longtime fan of their trail mixes and nut blends, so it's only fitting that we finally get a chance to sit down and talk about why they've built a business that's all about balance. Nutrition meets indulgence, fun meets functionality. From e-commerce beginnings to grocery store shelves across Canada and soon in the US, Neil and his team have navigated the snacking space with a clear vision to make healthier choices easy, delicious, and, well, laid back. In this conversation, we talk about the challenges small brands face when competing with big food companies and what it really takes to scale in a crowded category. Neil shares how Laid Back Snacks evolved beyond its initial direct-to-consumer model, why their 80-20 nutrition philosophy resonates with consumers, and what being B Corp certified means to them. Plus, he gives us a sneak peek into their innovation pipeline and his personal snacking obsession. Okay, here we go. The future of food starts now. Neil, this conversation has probably been a long time coming. I've been a consumer of Laid Back Snacks for a while, so I think it's only fitting that we finally get a chance to talk and not just in passing. But in Aisle 42 fashion, I want to welcome you to the show with a big question. It's the new one for season 2. Yeah. It is this. If you were given a magic wand and could redesign the future of the food system, what's one change that would inspire you the most?
Quality. I feel like the incumbent big food companies are just so entrenched and they have such deep pockets. And those relationships that they carry with distributors and retailers and things are just so well established. And you know, I'm sure over time they've been hard won. But for little food companies, I think there does need to be a bit of carve out where the distributors and the retailers, it feels like there's often a bit of a mindset where we're going to treat the little guy just the same way as we try to treat the big guy, or even, you know, try and recoup some of the costs that the big guy has leveraged from us with the little guy. And being a little guy, it would really be nice if there was that carve out where we were given a little bit more space to breathe. I mean, knowing that our resources are so limited.
Yeah, very true and well said. So good answer. You get an A+. So, Neil, before we go any further, why don't you walk listeners through what it is that you guys make? And most importantly for me, I want to know which of your products is your favorite.
Okay, right on. That's great. I love these questions. So we are a healthy and delicious snacking brand. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we do looks like traditional trail mixes. And typically we put a spin on it with making sure that we maintain the nutritional integrity that people are looking for when they choose these healthier food products, and then add a little bit of fun to it. We have an 80-20 nutritional philosophy, 80% untouched, and then 20% what we just call fun. And that might be some dark chocolate chips or some probiotic yogurt chips, and then some exotic flavors and spices. And we started off thinking we're going to be a complete disruptor in the space, and we're just going to be an e-commerce first business. We're going to go the subscription model route. And in 2014, when we launched, that was it. That was our reason for being. And over time, we realized, okay, hang on, you know, the internet, two things came through. One, the internet is a very noisy, very expensive place. And to scale this thing just in that one channel is going to cost us a lot of money. And two, there's a reason why these traditional distribution channels exist. And, you know, they're set up there, they're well established, and we can get a lot of scale pretty quickly. And when we've got customers and distributors and people asking for us in those traditional channels, you know, in the beginning we were saying no. And I think it was just that kind of lofty religious belief in our e-commerce dogma that had us stay there. But over time, we just were like, we have to open up these other channels. So today we've got 5 different main channels that we serve. And most recently, we launched a snack called Honey Habanero. And that's my favorite. I have this, that's my favorite at the moment. I do have a bit of an issue, an overconsumption issue, where when I find something that I like, I just hammer it. And I'm getting to a point where I've hammered Honey Habanero so much that I need to move on to the next one. But for my kids, I pick up my kids from their daycare. They're 2 and 4, so they're tiny. And every day, as soon as I get in the car, the first thing they say is snack, snack? Do you have a snack?" And they're crushing the mango right now. So I'm probably eating more dried mango than anything else. But if I was forced to choose, it would be honey habanero.
There you go. Yeah, the honey habanero, I tried it in the sample pack that I got from you guys. It was remarkable. However,
Oh,
the
thank you.
praline almonds,
Yeah,
wow. Like those are I remember the first time we had them, my wife and I, and it was sort of one of those like whoa moments. We both kind of stopped. We're both kind of chewing, looking at each other. We're like, wow, this is really
a little
good.
too
So
good.
I think
Nice.
and you're right, and the nut snacking space is crowded. There's a lot of brands in it. You see a lot of them kind of repeat in grocery stores and candy and snack aisles and on the strips by the checkout counter and at grocery and convenience. So this snacking of nuts is around, but you guys are doing some really fun things and the flavor is really remarkable. So well done.
Thank you, Corbin.
Why did you get into this? Like, what possessed you? What inspired you slash possessed you to say, you know what, this is what my life is going to look like over the next little while?
Well, yeah, I'd love to say that it was as intentional as that. So I just come out of business school and I had an entrepreneurship itch to scratch, which was one piece. And the second piece was just around food. I mean, I've always had a deep love of food, and not just from a sort of nourishment perspective, but also from a sort of emotional attachment perspective, like that whole imagery around comfort and enjoyment and indulgence and things and mood elevation. Like it's just wonderful. Like food has always played a huge role in my life. And I do remember I just moved to Vancouver and came out of business school, and I was looking around at potential companies that I'd love to start. And I do remember being sort of hit over the head in business school, like you've got to find something that's a mad passion that you're going to love, love, love. And I couldn't really think of anything bigger than food. And I do remember at the time I'd met my wife, and she said to me, "Hey man, Neil, like you eat so much junk." And I really did eat a lot of junk. And so I looked around the grocery store and I looked at a bunch of it's easy now to in 2025 to look at the snacking category and see all these wonderful options and see people moving away from those traditional sort of sugar filled confectionery into healthier options. But as recently as 2014, I remember walking around Save On and not seeing much in the middle between sort of the bulk stuff and then the heavy confectionery stuff, traditional confectionery stuff. And the stuff that was there, I found to be pretty like lame or uninteresting. It was like sort of super healthy, sprouted, really virtue filled food. And I just thought, man, this space has got to be fun. If we're going to attract people to make healthier choices, we've got to have a brand that's fun and playful and younger people in particular can engage with because they're the ones who want to eat more healthily. So yeah, cool. And I just kind of jumped into it. And then I'd moved from the UK and there was a company in the UK that delivered healthy snacks directly to my office. And being a really lazy guy, I just thought if I'm going to make healthy choices, I'm not finding them at the 7-Eleven on the corner. They need to be delivered to me. And delivery is fun. And subscription is fun because you get to build this ongoing relationship with your customer base. That appealed to me. So those things just kind of came together, and I didn't have kids at the time, and off I went.
That's so good. And what about this brand of laid back snacks? Where did that come from?
Yeah, that's so we
Did it
actually
come from your
started.
laziness?
Yeah, it really came from a place of, I at the time during the course of kind of shifting my food into choosing those healthier options, I spent a lot of time looking at nutritional fact tables and looking at ingredients. And I found myself going down rabbit holes and then second guessing things and Googling things. And we all know that Googling health related stuff online is no bueno, so don't do it. And so I wanted the brand to reflect that kind of that trust that, hey, there's an embodied trust between the brand and the consumer. And you don't need to go down any rabbit holes. Just, feel relaxed. If anything, the touch point with us can be something that lowers the level of anxiety in your life. We all live these high anxiety lives with access to too much information. just relax and enjoy your snack.
That's so good. I have distinct memories of my childhood with a nut cracker and a big bowl of,
Okay.
shell, like big nuts with shells, big walnuts, and all sorts of nuts. I don't even know. I don't even know if I knew what kind they were. They were maybe filberts or a bunch of other nuts. And it was my dad and I or my family would have the nut cracker and we'd, smash these things and
Nice.
they would leave, shells all over the living room, step on them the next morning. But nuts have always been a great snack in my household. In fact, when I go, I just spend a lot of time camping and sort of some adventure travel. And I feel like, always like a certain amount of candy and sort of sweet snacks to sort of tie you over. But nuts are very durable. They can handle high heat or, cold temperatures. They really do fill you up. They do a lot of good things. So even since, enjoying your snacks, I find those pouches are in my bag or in my car or in my camping gear. So it's always good to have them around.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You guys take sustainability pretty seriously, and I'm curious to know what is it about being B Corp certified that's really important to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, there's a base kind of ideological foundation there that before moving to Canada, I worked in London, England in an investment bank. And I found it to be fascinating work and I learned a ton, but I found it to be a pretty soulless pursuit. And when I left, so that was through my 20s. And when I left and I went to UBC at 30, I really wanted it to be I wanted my business school experience to be a bit of a sort of consolidation of everything that I'd learned in my early career. And I did find myself reflecting a lot on my upbringing in South Africa and the things that I really loved about growing up in South Africa for all of its issues is just the access to nature. And I find there's a similar sentiment in Canada. You know, people love being outdoors. They love being energetic and athletic. And there's this connection with the natural world that I found energized me and was so, so important to me. And so it started off being kind of an environmental thread that I wanted to weave into the company. And one of the accreditations we have is climate neutral. That's a really obvious direct feedback loop there. The B Corp was a little bit less so, but in building the company, it became so apparent to me that a company has such an awesome example or an awesome opportunity to set an example of social equity and building a team, building a healthy, happy, motivated team, making sure that the customers around the company are healthy and happy and engaged, and we're showing up and doing good in the world. So as a sort of foundational element, that was there for us. And then also purely from a competitiveness perspective and just speaking as a business person, there are a lot of snacking companies out there. And people have a lot of wonderful options when they go into a grocery store and choose snacks. And so we need a differentiator and we need something that really helps us stand above a lot of the other options. I fully recognize that not everyone is prepared to or attributes value to B Corp, but I think our people do, and it's certainly something that our customers really appreciate and like. So it's a good marriage for us.
Yeah, and I think B Corp is slowly, maybe even a little awkwardly, it is starting to get that reputation where consumers have been looking for it, buying it enough. It's starting to get out there. It's certainly is a bit of a groundswell kind of
Oh yeah,
movement, but it has its value. And you're right, there are consumers out there that feel that it is a way for them to distinguish between one brand and another when when there's a lot of parity at times. Though I'd argue that I don't come across snacks that compete with yours very often, but that's maybe my maybe I'm just a
that's
little
very kind.
naive, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, I've got a question for you on that, Corbin, because so we were doing our B Corp certification during the pandemic. And I remember at the time submitting our application and not sort of hearing from the organization for a long time. And it just took so long to kind of work through the mechanization of or the mechanics of getting to accreditation. And our account executive, I remember contacting me and saying, it's the pandemic and we have just been inundated with people applying for B Corp certification. And I remember thinking, well, that's interesting. Like, what is it about the pandemic that is suddenly making all these people want to apply for B Corp?
Yeah, I don't know. Exactly. But I could guess, and that is
Yeah,
first off, the pandemic brought about a reset for a lot of brands. There were a lot of brands doing overhauls. They were, especially if there was other, whether they had a bunch of cash because people were buying food like crazy. So a lot of food companies had a little bit more money than maybe they had had in the past, as well as a lot of people started food companies at that
yeah,
time. So it was sort of the race, to kind of get into the mix. I also think that that differentiation, you're in good company, in that a lot of brands that can manage it feel like that level of transparency does help them connect to consumers that are maybe a little bit more. I don't want to say that they're price capable. I'm just made up a term, but they're just
yeah.
they're maybe a little bit more affluent, or a little bit more
Mindful. Oh, yeah,
concerned
yeah,
or mindful or conscious of what they're buying. Again, that's a segment that is, but it is a segment that's growing. And I think what's interesting to me is that more and more consumers, regardless of their, extreme leanings or not, people are looking for ways to be responsible, and they understand transparency, and they start to look to companies that are being thoughtful and considerate about, people or planet, and they are being rewarded with loyalty. And so I think that in the pandemic, when B Corp sort of got its really big push, it was, add to a little bit of maybe a rainy day project where brands sort of felt like, oh, we'll get to that later. A pandemic, why not? But
yeah.
I
That's a
do
good
think it
point.
kind of came down to the consumer, that brands sort of felt like, and businesses felt like they wanted to really communicate something of value and of meaning, when in a world where everyone was afraid and worried and there was so much anxiety. B Corp sort of brought a little bit of calm, maybe, to elements of the
Yeah,
business, of the value chain. Yeah,
and I like that idea of having a pause to stop and think, and then dust off the old B Corp ambition.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, where can people find your snacks? I see it in, I think my local Thrifties carries it here in South Surrey, White Rock, South Rock,
Nice, nice.
known. But what are some of the banners and places and spaces that people find laid back snacks?
So the most obvious one is laybacksnacks.com, and we ship throughout North America. And it's not just personal snacking that we do on laybacksnacks.com. We also have gifting programs, whether it's personal gifting or corporate gifting. And we've most recently started selling through Costco, Costco.ca. So not in stores yet, but that's aspiration. It's on the roadmap. So Costco.ca, Amazon. Folks can find us on Amazon as they can find every single other thing on the planet. Sport Check, for your listeners who are in Canada, Sport Check is a wonderful retail partner for us. So we're actually enjoying sort of non-traditional retail quite a lot. Sport Check, Indigo, those stores.
Mountain Equipment Co-op. Did I see you guys in Mountain Equipment?
We've been chatting with them for a while, and it's a slow burn. So we've still got some work to do there. So the non-traditional retail is going pretty nicely. The grocery is going pretty nicely too. So yeah, Thrifties and Safeway and Sobeys, those are big partners. In the West, we do more business out west than we do out east. IGA, in terms of national banners, Whole Foods. We are in discussion with a couple of folks, and then out east, we're sort of making inroads into Ontario with our new broker. We've got a national distributor, Tree of Life, who handles us at the national level, and then regionally we've got East and West distributors who we work with on the ground, because they're just a lot of independent stores and smaller unaffiliated stores who really want to carry snacks that typically aren't found in a Walmart, for example. So we find that to be a sweet spot for us that works pretty nicely. Where else? I mean, we've got a food service channel that's growing quite nicely at the moment. And that'll, some folks might see us in their local, if you play golf, maybe at your golf course.
I think I actually came across laid back also at the Sea to Sky gondola,
Oh, fun.
just north of
Nice.
Vancouver. And it was at the kiosk at the bottom of the tram. We were waiting in line with 150 other people.
Priced at
Yeah.
19.99 a bag.
Yeah, it was maybe a little steep. So we only got one bag of praline almonds instead of two, but yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
nice.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
So what's next? Are you guys scheming up, flaming hot kimchi cashews? What's next on the innovation radar for you guys?
I think we're in an interesting place right now where we've got to a size and a scale, and I guess a level of kind of credibility. I definitely, when I started the company, I had a good amount of imposter syndrome, Corwin, where I just felt like, I'm some guy who's come from a finance and tech background, and now I'm suggesting to people that I know something about food, and they should buy these lovely snacks from us. And it always felt, for the longest time, it felt like there was a who do I think I am kind of dynamic going on. But we're a decade in now. We launched in December 2014, so we're a decade in, and the growth for me has been fantastic. The growth for the company has been fantastic too. And we're at a level now where we have these different channels that are going, and some, really important partners and customer relationships going, where we're being quite selective about chatting to different folks and saying, well, what would you like to see and what would work for you? Certainly from a flavor perspective, having conversations with Costco in the US. And Costco US is split into all sorts of different regions. And I think they have, I'm going to get this number wrong, but it's sort of 35 different buyers for the different regions in the US. And the amazing thing is the sort of microcosms that exist within those different catchment areas for each of the regions. And one thing that'll play really nicely in upstate New York is not going to play nicely in Southern California. And so a big, hairy, audacious goal for 2025 is to hopefully open up at least one Costco region. And so some of those conversations are very specific to product development for that customer, that potential customer. But within the broader kind of grocery channel in Canada, we feel pretty good about where we are with our products. We've got 5 different flavors across 10 SKUs. And there isn't a lot of daylight in the sales data in terms of popularity. We've got the Hearty Tamari and the praline almonds and the honey habanero, which are heavy on the nuts. And then we've got the wholesome yogi, which is a more typical traditional trail mix, which is a nice kind of entry point for someone who says, "Well, I like trail mixes, but I don't know anything about this brand." They can kind of look to that. And then for folks who are nut free, we've got the Wasabi Me, which is what I think the only all natural wasabi product on the market. I haven't seen anyone else who's offering an all natural. And when I say all natural, that's no green artificial colorants, that's no artificial wasabi flavoring. Our peas look a little bit less green, but that's the trade-off for having this beautifully natural, delicious product. And so I'm very happy with that. It's nut free. That's not to say anyone's going to buy wasabi peas and put them in a kid's lunchbox, because it's pretty spicy.
I would love to do that. Actually, that you've just given me an idea. I'm
Yeah.
gonna. my daughter deserves a lunch kit surprise. I think that's what's coming up next.
Nice. So I don't know, to answer your question, Colin. I don't know what we would take out. I mean, it would be a case of addition. Like what would we add? And then the question is, we've already got 10 there. Do we really want to add something else that's within a similar space in the store, or do we want to look to a different space?
Well, you've opened Pandora's box by doing the wasabi play, right? So you're like, it's not a nut play. So you're kind of you're tinkering with already sort of the boundaries of your approach. So I think, yeah, your categories. So I think that's exciting. Like you said, you kind of roll into Costco and do some special formats or special sort of configurations of what people will love, and then you'll lean into other areas later. But it's sure
So
is
what would you
exciting to see
recommend?
grow.
What's your
Oh,
recommendation?
oh
Come
man,
on,
that's
hot
that's
seat.
that's tough. I find myself I get excited about the savory stuff. Look how hot honey as a category, across North America has really thrived over the last 18 months, especially. And I think, savory and spicy and hot get really exciting. I think that there's, There's so many other cultures and cuisines that really lean into hot, spicy things. I think it's very welcoming for someone that maybe doesn't normally eat sweet nuts to be able to dive into a bag of, yeah, more savory. So I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little bit. Here, let me give you an example. I'm the guy that eats the garlic stuffed olives. And no one
Okay.
eats those because they give you garlic breath at a party, at a charcuterie
Yeah.
board, around everybody else. But I'm that guy. I'm like, I will eat, I won't drink it, garlic stuff. So maybe there's a garlic play for you. I'm not sure how friendly that would make you, the consumer, but it's certainly, savory is fun.
Well, and I do like the audacity of something like that. I definitely didn't start this company to be conservative and not have a bit of fun. And some stuff is going to work and some stuff's not. And it's certainly more exciting to me if it's a bit of a risky play and it's a big win.
Yeah. I think so common in your category, there's the usuals. There's the, like the peanut butter and chocolate, kind of
Yeah.
play. And there's or the Oreo like play. And there's some real standards. But breaking free of that, I think can really shake things up. And I think you can really attract an excited consumer when you lean into a flavor that, they already know and love, but maybe hadn't attached it to that type of snacking occasion.
Yeah, and that feeds nicely into the sort of online presence that we have and the digital dynamic, the digital footprint, putting forward something that might be controversial to people and then just seeing what the engagement is like online and how people feel about it in and of itself, there's a return there, even if the snack doesn't fly off the shelves.
Well, and you lean into that first party data, that direct connection with consumers that already know you and love you. And, sometimes they can give you the attaboys and the, sort of the feedback that might lead you astray if you're not careful. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, you can test things, you can explore things, you can get feedback from from people that, if they're not willing to buy it, but they bought other stuff from you, then that gives very clear data and better to test it with them than with a national broker or national
Yeah.
distribution. So it's a beautiful thing. And I do think that brands that are really looking to kind of break out of that emerging category and really kind of hit the mainstream, they still need a groundswell of support. And it's not just going to come down to trade spending and advertising and brand awareness. Those things layer on top of what needs to be people who deeply love the product, that care for the brand, and have some level of connection or affinity to what that product means for them.
Yeah, that level of authenticity that they can connect to. And that's for me circles back to the B Corp and the climate neutral piece as well. Just really signaling to the consumer that we are an authentic, sort of caring company.
Wonderful. Well, I love what you make. Thank you for making it. Thanks for
Thank you.
taking a few minutes of your day to jump on this episode, but I appreciate your time and everything you've done, Neil.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Corwin. It was a great chat. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Aisle 42. To learn more about everything that Neil and his team are making for snackers like us and everything that they're doing to be a sustainable food company, go to laidbacksnacks.com. Okay, that's it for me. I'm Corwin Hebert from Ethical Food Group, and I'll see you in the future.